Want to learn about public policy with a group of curious fellow learners? Apply for the 12-week graduate certificate in public policy. Early bird deadline closes 27th July.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast by the Takshashila Institution. We are a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like bringing fresh perspectives to Indian affairs and Indian perspectives to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
This is part 2 of a two-part series on India's Akashteer air defense system. The first part was released yesterday. We hope you enjoyed listening to it. This two-part series dives deep into one of India's most sophisticated homegrown defense innovations, the Akashteer Air Defense Network. Born from India's quest for self-reliance in defense technology, Akashteer is a testament to Indian engineering prowess, capable of generating dynamic, common air situational awareness for the air defense warriors. From its development by the Bharat Electronics Ltd (BEL) to its deployment across India's air defense architecture, Akashteer has transformed how India defends its airspace. But what makes this system truly remarkable isn't just its technical specifications. It's the story of how a nation built world-class defense technology from the ground up. So buckle up as we explore the science, strategy, and significance of India's Akashteer air defense system, a shield in the sky that's reshaping regional security dynamics.
Akashteer is a wonderful example of a system developed indigenously, and that is something that has proven its worth and has been successful in actual wartime. It would be interesting to know how this project evolved over the years, right from its conception to what were its objectives, what were the important timelines, what were the challenges that were faced while trying to meet those timelines. Because defense product development is generally there's a perception about that being a little slow, maybe exceeding timelines, etc. But this project is a wonderful example of something that has been developed indigenously within timelines, probably, right? So if you could give an idea about what was this entire process like, and where we are right now, and what further changes are being thought of.
Yeah, so let me talk about the conceptualization. The concept of Akashteer was here for decades, right? But for various reasons, and I'll not get into that. It is not the forum for to get into those things. But definitely, there were slippages, there were conflicts, there were several arguments between the army itself and then with the Air Force. For a fact, that happened. So let us simply come back to, let's say, 2020. 2020 onwards, this was taken up in a very, very serious fashion. And you'll be surprised to note that the contract was signed in March 23 and the system was delivered in 24, right? So this was absolutely lightning fast sort of operation of the Army concerned personnel and BEL, Ghaziabad. So that is in as far as the concept and the execution, contracting, etc. is concerned. But what is more important is the challenges. Why this entire thing took so much of time and to come to this state that we are. We see Akashteer needed to sort of integrate with diverse systems. It had to talk to the ISCCS, it had to talk to the Trigun, and therefore the integration did not even, not only involve the hardware, but it also involved the software and then the communication protocols. Now try and imagine there are three different systems working on their own sort of manner, in a manner they were conceptualized. You see, I'll just give a simile to you, for example. Now, to even make a non-smart TV smart, you got to go out, buy some sort of a stick, which you will now put in one of the ports in the TV and figure out as to how to make it smart, etc. So even such a small thing requires so much of effort. Now try and explode it to the level that this entire operation has to take place. So to make sure that the communication protocols, till such time DCN came in, the communication protocols were different, right? So the media which was being followed by the three services were different. The hardware was different. The software was different. So firstly, to integrate this entire diverse system, firstly that. And then to achieve, autonomous operation, it is again a sort of a task of mind-boggling proportions. So autonomous tracking, autonomous engagement, not that I'm saying the man is not there in the loop, which probably we can talk about a little later as well. But to make sure that this entire thing becomes autonomous, to develop the algorithms, including the AI algorithms, the capabilities to achieve all of this. So that was next. And then to ensure real-time situational awareness, how many sensors you need to fuse, and then you have to make sure that multiple sensors are painting the same aircraft or same airborne object, to make sure that you don't have the same aircraft being painted as multiple sort of threat, right? So all of those parallax corrections have to be made, and this entire data has to be fused, and everybody, the entire nation, from the man on ground at the battery level right up the chain to the national leadership, can see that entire picture, which is absolutely correct and in real time. So that was another challenge. And furthermore, to ensure that it is delivered in various forms, right? You need to keep it mobile. You also need to keep it static. See, ISCCS is in a particular place. It doesn't move, right? But for Akashteer, you need to have, these containerized modules which can move with the forces in the tactical battle area. You also require some static models somewhere, which is for a static VP, right? So to maintain the mobility and the adaptability of all of that, to make sure that all of this thing happen, and then to make sure this system also now adapts to asymmetric threats, right? Earlier, you would not bother with small little nano UAVs, etc. So while you will say classically it is not Akashteer's job, it is probably the sensor or the shooter's job. But this entire thing, after all, is part of the same system. So to make sure to counter these asymmetric threats and hybrid warfare, that also had to be factored in there. And then to make sure that it remains upgradable, it should be capable of absorbing future technologies. So, some sort of open-end architecture and modular architecture, which is flexible to adapt future technologies. So that was another challenge. So there were multiple challenges which this team sort of put their heads together to overcome. And hats off, they've done a wonderful job.
Just to understand, all of this complexity was handled in that 1 year period from when the contract was signed and it was delivered, or was this a process that was going on from?
No, so therefore it was a process which was going on. While you see, it's like this: you may go into mission mode at any point in time, as far as any project is concerned. But the background is always happening, right? And after all, everything is a sort of an integration of various components, right? There is a system and there are subsystems. So most of it has been developed, all right. ISCCS's experiences are there already with DRDO and Bell, right? So they already had that experience with them. And then there is obviously private defense industry, which is available to you, which has done some sort of a work. So the building blocks were in place, right? You just had to bring them together, right? And the concept was going on, like I said, for decades. So it's not that suddenly once the contract was signed, the process of the R&D had started, or then they started thinking what we must do, etc. So like I said, the building blocks are in place. So they just had to bring the whole thing together, and all the moving parts, when they came in and sort of started working as a system together, the whole thing took shape and came out as what we saw in Sindoor as well, the Akashteer.
And as a follow up to this question itself, so it would be interesting to know. So basically, zoom out from Akashteer for a second and then focus on the larger research and development ecosystem in the Indian defense sector, because this project itself gives a wonderful understanding of how R&D and then actual building of the product can happen in a way that's very essential, right? So that's done in a way that's useful and fast and all of that, right? So what are like maybe just 2-3 most important changes that you think could be made in the way defense R&D or defense product development is done in India that could help India in a way, and in a way learning from the development of this particular system?
So, Arindam, this particular project was, I think, was in Buy Indian IDDM category, indigenously designed, developed, and manufactured category. So, as you're aware, there are two schemes: Buy and the other scheme is Make, right? And in Buy, you have Buy Indian IDDM, you have Buy Indian, and you have Buy Global, and in Make, you have Make and Buy and manufacture in India, and like that. So, therefore, these two schemes, 5 categories in which we have divided our capital procurement. This system has evolved over a number of years, right? And it would be very, very incorrect for me to sort of, why I say incorrect, let me explain for one bit. You see, a lot of people have sat together and made number of changes to our defense acquisition procedure, right? So the DAP 2020 has also been modified a number of times. So this process is constantly on to ensure that we maximize the indigenization of all our capital procurement. B, there is total transparency. C, avoid all of this sort of allegations of corruption and such like malpractices, which in the past have sort of delayed our procurement processes. As you are aware, several big ticket projects sort of were alleged that they were having some malpractices involved, and they were scraped and restarted and all of that. So primarily because of those reasons, number of our projects did not take off. Then what straight up comes to my mind as far as indigenous development is concerned is the shifting of goalposts at times. While DRDO is working on something, for example, or let us say the DPSUs or the Ordnance Factory Board or other think tanks or the industry is working on something which is available on here and now basis, but probably the forces may have aspirations which are slightly futuristic, and those things may not be available in the immediate time frame. And in addition to that, you got to cater for what you got available in terms of niche technologies in the country. You are aware what I'm talking about. Those technologies may not be immediately available to the Indian ecosystem, defense industrial ecosystem. So those in any case you'll have to ask and get, and these are very difficult to get. So therefore, sometimes it is wise to sort of go on here and now basis than to sort of remain aspirational and not get anything. Let's say, for example, if today we want sixth generation aircraft, while we sort of don't even have a 4.5 sort of thing. So therefore, sometimes you'll have to strike a balance between your aspirations. While I said this from the forces aspiration side, then there is also a limitation on our research and development part. The funding for research and development, while on various models have been created like IDEX, like Technical Development Fund, Correction Technology Development Fund with the DRDO. Various such methodologies have been created. The Army Design Bureau continues to encourage innovation even in-house. And there are several cases where in-house innovations have been productionized. But that's a very low end of the spectrum of technology, right? And the TRL level is still somewhere around 6, 7 and not reach 9 in most cases, right? So therefore, if one thing I would sort of be able to place my finger on as far as defense acquisition is concerned, that we need to at times keep the DAP aside and get things, because we are falling way behind time. We need these air defense weapons, and we needed them as of yesterday. And the more we continue to do this RFI business, though it's the procedure, but in today's date, you don't really need an RFI. All capabilities are available freely across the board. So you just quickly uh, identify what specifications you want, take out your RFP, go for emergency procurement. Those routes are available to you, and procure, and then make sure that a correct category is used to indigenize that particular weapon system or equipment. We need to buy these things. We need to budget for that. We need to fast track this complete procedure, whether we go government to government or you use the FMS route or whatever. We need to absolutely expedite this process and make sure, especially in air defense, that we get this counter UAS systems as of yesterday. You cannot waste an hour, forget about a day. And this is something for a fact. Why the Prime Minister himself has said that the operation is on the pause mode. So therefore, I would assume that this could restart, right? So therefore, we need to have these systems and have them, like I kept saying, as of yesterday.
Right. Akash Tirsa really came into limelight during Op Sindoor. Do you think it was an operational validation of its capabilities? And in your assessment, how would you kind of judge its performance? And also, how does it kind of compare with comparable systems in our threat region with our neighborhood?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I have no doubts in my mind. Akashteer was operationally validated in Sindhu. Absolutely. 100%. And the very fact that we engaged all the aerial threats the way we did is a sort of a proof of that, right? So that part is done and dusted. There is no sort of problem over there. Now, in as far as how this compares is concerned, well, both the neighbors, I would say, are adversaries. Both have comparable, and at times I would sort of extend myself to say even better systems they've got. So there is no chink in their armor as well, in as far as the command and control systems are concerned for air defense operations, both of them. And furthermore, assisted by Chinese, Pakistanis may be a shade better.
Right. So coming to the technologies involved in this, right, and specifically artificial intelligence, because that's a very important technology nowadays, especially generative AI and all of that, right? So has artificial intelligence been co-opted into the system? And if it has, there are aspects of it that require safety measures, right? So do you envisage the system to enjoy greater autonomy in decision or kill cycles as it matures, or are there other ways of handling this?
So you see, not only from the army point of view, I think for the airspace management and the air traffic management for the unmanned systems, we need to have firstly already a policy, right? So we let me just explain what I'm trying to say, and then I will obviously come back to the question that you were asking. We must make sure that while ensuring maximum freedom of operations, we have to balance between manned and unmanned operations, especially now that we have swarms of UAS also available to us. So this particular part needs to be addressed and reviewed regularly, right? So you should have mandatory requirements for secondary sensors for to make sure that the air traffic is managed properly. The drone regulation organization should be able to recognize and track drones, and the drones must be asked to. I mean, I'm talking about our own, and then we can get on to the hostile airborne objects or UAS to air traffic control responders, or what we call as the ADS-B, the automatic dependent surveillance broadcast or other airborne equipment, and similarly anti-collision systems, etc. So these are the things. Firstly, and of course, the international civil aviation has to come in this. The ICAO also to that extent. This is to make sure, firstly, the unmanned aerial systems are regulated in some fashion. And then coming back to what you were asking, yes, artificial intelligence is absolutely important to make sure that the automated operations sort of kick in for detection, for track identification, tracking, and allocating. But I guess till such time we are 100% sure of artificial intelligence, which is unlikely to be ever happening, at least in the near future, you'll have to have a man in the chain to take that final decision of engaging a hostile airborne object kinetically or non-kinetically to bring it down.
Sir, we've been seeing in the recent conflicts, both in the Iran-Israel context or in Russia-Ukraine, as you alluded to earlier. So drones have really emerged as a major aerial threat in recent years, especially in the air littoral or the very low level airspace. How do you envisage the air defense concepts adapting to this evolving paradigm of threats in the very low level airspace?
So, Vikrant, we have to, like I said earlier, also while we were talking about various other things, after all, unmanned aircraft is an aircraft, right? Or an airborne object, right? So, now the RCS or the radar cross section may be very, very small to the tune of 0.005 meters square, right? Or it may be very slow moving sort of a aircraft. So, and its form factor may be different. It could be a quadcopter, it could be a rotary wing sort of a UAV, it could be any shape, any form, right? It could be carrying any sort of payload, just so long as it's a hostile thing, right? So now the only sort of adaptation that you got to make is now you got to counter this sort of a threat, right? So look at the two ends. You have a hypersonic threat, and you have an absolutely slow moving threat of not even moving at 30 meters per second, right? So you have two ends of the spectrum. You have something which is giving you 5, 10, 20 meters square RCS. You have something which is giving you 0.005 meters square RCS. So now to have one single equipment, now there are such equipment, by the way. There are such sensors. Now the AESA radars which are coming in, and the army is already procuring them, right? The triple LR program for both the army and the air force, plus already the AESA radars which are there, already inducted for various weapon systems. So those are the systems that now we need to put in place. Plus, we need to get passive detectors now, right? So, because at times what is going to happen is that the RCS is so low, plus it is not even, so even if you put a RF detector, it is not transmitting only, right? You have tethered drones now, or you have drones which are like absolutely pre-programmed, neither sending a signal. It's like a loitering munition, right? So it's not even sending a signal, right? I'm just saying. So therefore, you have to have passive detectors also, which should be able to. Then you should have means of countering it, both kinetic and non-kinetic. So therefore, you need to have jammers, you need to have spoofers, then something called the TOC, or taking over control. So you have to have such systems in place. You can easily modify your existing equipment, the hard kill equipment, by putting such sensors, and there are such models already available in the world, using the similar weapon systems which the Indian Army has got, and convert them into counter UAS systems using all of these force multipliers which I just mentioned, including a RF detector, a passive detector, a jammer, a spoofer, a taking over a control kind of a equipment. And all of these things can be integrated together. It has already been integrated, and all we need to do is start integrating them ourselves. And I guess Army is seriously considering in taking out an RFP to have such a system in place. So I hope this will happen soon, and this is the way we have to go about. Akashteer is already sort of geared up for that. All it now needs is all of these things which I said, specifically for drone warfare, as you said. See, the bigger drones, which are the hail and the mail variety, can be engaged in the normal fashion, as we said. But this is the asymmetric part which I was trying to mention, not only in the hands of the state actors, but the non state actors, for which you require. Sometimes even a handheld sort of a jammer is good enough for a BSF, person who's on the border, to bring down these, like I earlier mentioned, these localized incursions to drop contraband or a weapon or something like that, right? So we need to think in those terms and have customized solutions for so active protection systems for, let us say, NSG, active protection system for, let us say, the armored vehicles and the for the armored corps and the BMPs of the mechanized infantry. So we need to think in those terms now. Like you guys have mentioned earlier, the paradigm has changed, right? So we got to now start thinking that probably while there is an umbrella in place, right? I have already talked about layered and tiered air defense, but maybe it is not good enough for all of these micro threats, which are good enough to bring down a armored vehicle as well, right? So imagine a tank with 3 or 4 people on board with that much of ammunition, and with a top-down attack kind of a loitering munition sort of. And it has happened. You've seen it in Russia-Ukraine war. You've seen it in Armenia and Azerbaijan. So it's all happening, right? So we got to counter those threats. It's all been thought through. The people who are in charge, the officers who are in charge of all of this, have already thought this through. It is just that we need to get our act together in getting these systems into the Army and the Air Force.
So, how would you kind of rate the scalability or adaptability of Akashteer? So, it's almost like a work which will continue to remain in a state of progress always, because it will have to keep onboarding new systems that get inducted and keep scaling up to absorb the new technologies which will keep getting procured and included into our inventory. So does Akashteer as a project lend itself to such scaling upwards, or modular plugging in plugging off kind of a mode of integration with AD systems?
Absolutely, Vikrant, you're absolutely right. And it has to be. It has to be with every system that we've got, right? It has to be scalable, it has to be adaptable. And Akash 3 definitely is. So, therefore, that part has already been thought through, which I brought out earlier as to one of the challenges was to make sure that it remains upgradable for future technologies. So, it is absolutely so. And that part has been taken care of. It is scalable. And as we speak, it is being scaled. So the project is not sort of done and forgotten about. It will continue to adapt, it will continue to scale, and it will continue to upgrade. So that would remain the way it would be for both the ISCCS as well as the Akashteer and Trigun. It has to be like that. You cannot sort of say that now this has been fully developed and it has no need to sort of learn any further or so. By the very fact that you all have continued to mention AI, that itself by definition says that you got to learn, right? So that AI has to learn and then again improve itself and then learn again to improve itself, right? So as the things change and more inputs come in, the project would remain scalable, upgradable, and adaptable. It has to be. There's no other way, and it is so.
Great. So it's in fact been a very insightful discussion with you on Akashteer and all aspects related to air defense. Any parting thoughts, like final thoughts that you would like to give us on the way forward for the air defense?
Well, the first thought which straight up comes to my mind is I wish to compliment all the air defenders, including from the Indian Air Force, the Army, for a wonderful job done in Op Sindoor. In fact, to the core of air defense personnel who are still doing this duty, right? So they are still operationally engaged as we speak and are continuing to ensure that our skies are safe and we can sleep peacefully. So my compliments to them and a heartfelt thanks as well to both the Indian Air Force Air Warriors, Air Defenders, and the Corps of Army Air Defense for a wonderful job done. And my wish is that that necessary budgets are allocated and the process is sort of fast tracked for getting much needed impetus to our sensors and shooters to make sure that we remain ahead on this curve. Otherwise, this is not going to be good. You saw what happened in Iran. So any let up on this front has going to have serious results, and especially not only in terms of the project like Akashteer. I mentioned those domains. We need to seriously get our head together in cyber and electronic warfare domains and aerospace domain, specifically space domain, to make sure that we remain ahead of the curve.
Right. Very wise parting thoughts to end this discussion. Thanks, sir, for taking time out for this podcast. I'm sure our listeners would also enjoy this. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Vikrant. Thank you so much, Arindam, for having me on your show. It was a pleasure and an honor. And thank you to your listeners as well. And I'm wishing all of you, including your listeners, a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
This concludes our two-part series on India's Akashteer air defense system. We hope you enjoyed listening to both the episodes. Please do let us know how you liked it.
If you liked our show, dive into Takstashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs. Check us out at our Twitter handle @Takshashila INST or our website takshashila.org.in.